Bitter Ocampo.
Hi, everyone. We'll start in a few minutes. Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome sa aming exciting event. Ayan, Pride Month is still on. Kaya naman inihahatid ng Psychological Association of the Philippines LGBT Special Interest Group in partnership with University of the Philippines Diliman Department of Psychology ang aming exciting na topic this afternoon. Sana all, a webinar on LGBTQ plus love, dating, and relationships. So, ayan. Excuse me lang sa mga single. Na-joke lang. Pero ito ay maaaring makatulong din, syempre, di ba, sa future para sa atin. Sa akin nga, parang pag-atake ito sa aking pagkatao. No? Pero, ayan, hopefully mag-enjoy kayo sa aming topic this afternoon. Pero syempre, bago tayo magsimula at magkamustahan, let me share with you yung ilan lang sa ating mga rules. Simple rules lang naman, ano? Number one rule para sa ating event this afternoon, mute your audio to eliminate background noise and prevent disruptions during the panel discussion. So wag po natin kakalimutan yan dahil baka naririnig po namin yung mga nangyari sa likod ng inyong mga keyboards. Number two, turn off your video during the discussion for better internet reception. Number three, share your questions and comments in the chat or raise your hand if you want to speak during the Q&A. So later, meron po tayong chance na magtanong at mag-share ng inyong insights after mag-share ng ating mga speakers at ng ating reactor din. So napakasimple lang po, no? So yan, simulan na natin yung ating discussion this afternoon. So syempre, bago ang lahat, kakumustahin ko kayo. How are you, everyone? So you may type in your answers or response dito sa ating comment box. Kumusta po kayo ngayon? Excited po ba kayo? Masaya? At kinakabahan ba? Dahil sa mga pag-uusapan, kinakabahan sa excitement ba? O ano? Feeling good. Ayan. Okay lang po. By the way, ako ang moderator ninyo, si Rian. Yan, Rian Portuguese. Ang inyong makulit na moderator this afternoon. So, excited at naiinitan. Ako din, naiinitan ako kasi umiinit yung ulo ko sa title ng ating event. Happy Pride, sabi ni John. Tapos okay na okay ako, sabi ni Sharonit. Ayan, ano pa iba? Feeling good, sabi ni Karen May. Nako, ayan. Puro positive ang ating ng ating mga excited much, sabi ni ni Kathleen. Hi, ayan. Okay, so ang dami-dami ninyo, ayan. Looking forward to learning, ayan, to more from our speakers. Excited, sabi ni Kariel. Ayan. Excited, sabi ni Maria Ligaya. Feeling good and curious, sabi ni Germard. Ayan. So napakadami ninyong most of you feel good ang inyong mga responses. At ako din naman natutuwa din at excited din talaga ako na matuto ngayon. Ayan. Hello po. Watching from Cagayan Valley. Hi, Yvonne. Yvonne. Si Bethea, apektado po ng Mercury retrograde. Ni-reason out pa talaga. So, happy Pride, sabi ni Bethea. Yan, si Angelo Noel, good afternoon. So maraming salamat sa mga nag-share ng inyong mga sagot. Ipagpatuloy nyo lang kasi ito din yung chance natin na mag-match, na mag-usap-usap at magkamustahan kasi malamang sa malamang kasama natin yung ating mga colleagues dyan na excited din para sa topic natin this afternoon. So without further ado, syempre, kailangan na din natin na simulan talaga, para talaga masimulan natin ang ating event ngayon. Tinatawagan po natin ang chairperson ng University of the Philippines, Diliman, si Dr. Michelle Ong.
Ayan. Salamat, Rian. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Ako po si Mitch Ong, ang current chairperson ng Psychology Department. Karangalan ko po na i-welcome kayong lahat sa event namin na ito at i-welcome kayong lahat. So, iisa-isahin ko po kayong hindi ko naman iisa-isahin. Pero para po sa mga nandito, dahil sa pakiramdam nyo, ito ay para sa inyo o tungkol sa inyo, welcome po. Welcome sa inyong pagdalo at sana may mapulot po tayong lahat, may mapulot kayo na mga kaalaman na makakatulong sa inyo na makabuo at makapag-maintain ng healthy, happy, meaningful relationships in the future. Para po sa mga nandito dahil kayo ay curious or bi-curious, welcome, or baka nandito kayo para sa inyong mga pamilya o mga kaibigan, no? Welcome po sa inyong lahat at sana po mas maintindihan natin at makita natin kung paanong napaka-common at essential na experience, no, nung pagmamahal, ng pagkabigo, etc. At kung paano din tayo sigurong makakasuporta sa ating mga minamahal, sa ating mga kasamahan para magkaroon ng mas maganda ring mga relasyon, no? Yung sa kanilang pagsubok sa paghahanap ng pagmamahal sa mundong ito. Para po sa aming mga bisita, sa ating mga panelists at reactors, no, kina Dr. Ver Reyes, kay Mr. Neil Quintanar, sa ating reactor na si Dr. Ana Tuazon at pati na rin kay Rian, no, na ating host for today. Maraming salamat sa inyong paglaan ng oras na ito at welcome po kayo. Sana may susunod pa tayong ganitong mga sessions. Salamat po sa inyong pagbabahagi ng inyong personal na karanasan. Professional po na karanasan pala at kaalaman tungkol sa LGBTQ love and relationships. Sana po sa inyong paglahok sa ating event na ito para sa aming mga panelists and reactors, makita nyo rin na ang inyong ginagawa ay makabuluhan at merong ambag sa unti-unting siguro pag-unlad ng ating lipunan tungo sa isang mas mapagmahal at makatarungang lipunan para sa ating lahat. Maraming salamat, Happy Pride, at umpisahan na po natin. Welcome po sa lahat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle Ong from University of the Philippines, Diliman. So maraming salamat doon sa kanyang share at pagpapakita ng suporta. Lahat ng kung ano man ang sexuality mo, talagang welcome na welcome ka dito para ka sa event namin na to, no? Love wins nga, di ba? Sabi nga, Happy Pride. Ayan, syempre hindi na ako magpapatagal pa dahil ako din mismo, excited ako na matuto dito sa dalawang speakers natin this afternoon. So, tinatawagan ko na yung una nating speaker. Ayan, syempre excited kayo dyan. So, una munang speaker natin. So, Neil Steve M. Quintanar is a PRC registered psychologist and an assistant professor at the Psychology Department, University of San Carlos. He finished both his AB in Psychology, batch 2000, and MA in Psychology, major in Counseling, batch 2010, in Ateneo de Manila University. He has been energetically inspiring and motivating people for more than 15 years through teaching psychology-related courses, mentoring and advising undergraduate and graduate research courses, designing and implementing indoor and outdoor group self-awareness, leadership and character and team building workshops, and assessing counseling, coaching, and recommending intervention to children, adolescents, young adults, parents, and families. He's an advocate for LGBT well-being and rights. He published a scientific paper in Philippine Journal of Psychology about similarities and differences between opposite gendered and same gendered relationships. Very interesting. He presented in scientific conferences some of his research about love stories of Filipino gay men, relationship, outness, relationship satisfaction, and conflict resolution strategies among gay and lesbian individuals in relationships. He's passionate about the psychology of love, and you can even watch his USC TEDx. Ako napanood ko yon. Titled Lessons from a Part-Time Psychologist, Full-Time Lover. Ayan, kung kayo ay may time, panoorin niyo yon sa YouTube. Ayan. So, tatawagin na natin si Dr. Steele talaga. Neil Quintanar. Ayan.
Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Pride.
So, hi, Sir Neil. At tagal kitang hindi na-meet at nakasama sa event. No? Kamusta naman?
I'm doing good. I'm happy. Despite of the pandemic, still flourishing. So,
Yes.
really
I love
good
your shirt.
and excited for today.
I love your shirt. No? Yung Pride. Parang
Yes,
nakita ko
yes.
na yan.
Pa-plug na lang. This is from Milkware and Love Yourself. So, you can go to shop Lazada and get your Pride shirt.
Yan. So, kung interested kayo, yon order lang kayo sa Lazada daw. So, yon Sir Neil, syempre bibigay ko na yung stage sa inyo kasi excited na kaming lahat.
Ako pala mauuna. Okay, game!
Yeah.
Okay.
Ayan.
So, di ba meron tayong first part, second part, and third part, no?
Yes.
So, di-discuss ko ba yung first part lang or yung didiretso ko na tong lahat?
Yes, yung sa part ng mismong part ng misconceptions.
Right. So, okay, so meron akong dalawang misconceptions na I wrote, no? So, ang first misconception ng same-gendered relationship, no? I'll be talking most probably on same-gendered, like gay men relationship and then lesbian relationship compared to trans relationship. And I think Dr. Ver will talk about it, no? So, yung first misconception ay yung tanong palagi sa amin kung sino ba talagang babae, sino ang lalaki, no? So, sino ang nanliligaw, kung may nanliligaw man, or kung sino ang nagluluto, no? So, parang palaging tinatanong sa amin kung sino ba ang fork at saka sino ba ang spoon, 'di ba? But my usual answer with this one ay in a chopstick meron bang spoon and fork? 'Di ba? So that's my usual answer. But really, although it is preference based, there are some relationships, some same gendered relationship that really showed that one person is more masculine, the other one is more feminine, and even in lesbian or gay relationship, meron talagang butch, merong feminine, no? In some but not all. Okay? But studies have shown, and I've also done research about it. I've talked to couples, same-gendered couples, and then they are really more egalitarian in their relationship. So egalitarian, more equal, no? Ang kanilang relationship. So sinong nangliligaw? Kung sinong may gusto, di ba? Who will pursue is a person who would want to pursue. No? Kaya kung mutual naman yung love, minsan wala nang ligawan, di ba? Bakit pa mangliligaw? So, it is very quick and easy. Okay? So, sinong nagluluto? No? Sinong nag-aayos ng bahay? Sinong naglilinis ng bahay? Sinong nagtatrabaho? Yung may trabaho, magtatrabaho. Yung magaling magluto, magluluto. Yung magaling maglaba, at saka maglinis. No? Who has a more physical, a stronger strength. Minsan siya yung gumagawa ng pambahay, no? So more egalitarian talaga, no? Ang same gendered relationship. So I think that's one. And then the second one, misconception. Marami namang misconception, but I just choose two, no? Para naman I can also share the floor to our next speaker. So Ang second naman, yung hindi yan magtatagal, no? Sure, sakit sa puso, no? Parang pinipirahan ka lang yan. Okay? That whole idea that gay relationship will end up in tragedy, no? And really, in my studies, lesbian and gay couples aspire to be in a long-term relationship. Okay? And they stay in satisfactory, flourishing long-term relationship. So I know of a lot of couples who are 12 years already together, who are 20 years together. So they are really aspiring, no, to be in that relationship. So I think, Rian, so these are the misconceptions that I can share. Naka-mute pa po kayo.
Yun yung ano, yun yung ilan sa mga ano no, kailangan nilang maintindihan when it comes to our experiences, and that's very interesting, no? Ayan. So, of course, pinangunahan na ni Sir Neil, no, para maging mainit yung ating floor. Syempre hindi ko napapatagalin pa dahil kailangan din natin ma-introduce yung isa din nating speaker. Naghanda talaga siya. Excited ako na makita siya ngayon kasi lagi siyang ganyan para magugulat ka. So, hindi ko napapatagalin pa. Okay? So, we have Dr. Ver Reyes. Ayan, is the current chairperson. I'm not sure kung naririnig ako, no? Current chairperson of the Teaching Psychology Special Interest Group, a member of the LGBT Psychology SIG of the Psychological Association of the Philippines, and a licensed psychologist and psychometrician. Dr. Reyes is the head of the psychology program and concurrent dean of the graduate studies at the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Marikina. Various schools, media, and other organizations has invited her to conduct seminar workshops and share her insights on teaching, doing research, and study LGBT issues. She received her doctorate in social development from the Philippine Women's University, Manila, and earned her master and baccalaureate degrees in psychology from the Ateneo de Manila University. Her research interests are in the fields of teaching, positive psychology, and mental health, political and peace psychology, as well as social psychology. So, tinatawagan ko na si Binibining Madam Ver Reyes. Ayan.
Hey, Rian! Nakikita niyo ba ako? Nakikita niyo na ba ako?
Ayan.
Hindi.
So, oo, nakikita ka na. Malinaw na
Ayan.
malinaw.
Okay, very good. So, happy Pride, everyone. Maraming salamat for joining us this wonderful afternoon. Ano ba? Hindi mo ba ako tatanungin, kamusta na ako? Ganon. Di ba yun yung script natin? Nakakamiss.
Kasi
hindi
parang
sumusunod sa script.
Hindi kasi, nung nakita kita parang natulala na ako. Kanina di ba diretso ako, sabi ko, pagpasok ni Sir Neil, sabi ko, kumusta ka na? So ako parang, napangangana lang ako. So, kumusta ka na? Kumusta ka na, Binibining?
Eto, parang kinukutsa ako talaga ng ng topic natin on relationships. Parang naghahamon ng away yung ating topic, Pero hindi.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here to talk about what we did in terms of our research. Pero siguro, ito kasi yung prelude of doing in terms of relationships, ito siya, no? So parang we wanted to know. Actually, yung motivation nito, wala kasi ako nade-date. Tapos iniisip ko, ako lang ba yung may problema sa pagde-date, ganyan. So, sabi ko, sige, alamin na lang din natin. Ano ba yung
misconceptions?
Or how do trans Pinays ba, at least in Metro Manila, explore yung scripts in dating? Kasi parang feeling ko sa tagal kong hindi nagde-date, nakalimutan ko na kung ano yung script na sino ba yung nag-ask out, ganyan, or something. Sabi ni Neil kanina, di ba, very egalitarian. Ako naniniwala doon. Hindi, joke lang. Hindi. Ha? Diba tayo nipasok si Neil? Parang may galit kayo kay Neil today. Hindi. Pero, interestingly, medyo kakaiba yung outcome, you know, when we talk about LGBT, parang sabi nga ni Neil, 'di ba? It's more egalitarian, walang mga gender roles and stuff. But I guess what appears in our research is that there seems to be a certain level of expectations. Siguro I'll share na rin lang my screen para yung mga misconceptions, no, in terms of ito lang yung picture ko kasi wala na akong panahong mag-animate ganyan. So three things yung nilista ko kasi binary. So I think one of the misconceptions in general to, no, when it comes to LGBTQI people, and also based on my experience and also on the research that we did, is three things. Siguro the misconceptions that it's not really love, that kung ano yung meron na namamagitan sa inyo, it's not love as we know it. It's all about sex, that everything about your relationship involves intimacy lang. And I guess ito yung lalo na for trans women, it's all about the money, no? Na that trans women, because perhaps they're desperate for love or for sex, that they would need money for them to have someone to give them love. So I guess yung tatlong yun, yung kadalasan na misconceptions. But research have shown, no, that love can exist, di ba? In either in same-sex relationships or among sexual minorities and gender minorities. Sex, again, is an important quality of an intimate relationship, but not necessarily, no? Hindi naman siya lang yung kung saan nagre-revolve yan. And it's interesting that we think about trans women as spending for men, pero we don't question about men spending for women, di ba? So parang we're always fighting for equality, pero pagdating sa money, nagiging medyo hot na issue siya. So I guess yun yung tatlong kadalasan na misconceptions about LGBTQ relationships, no, and how we look at them in general.
So kung mapapansin natin when it comes doon sa experience nung shinare niyo both ni Sir Neil, nakikita natin yung differences, no, lalo na doon sa part ng sa trans, iba yung parang transcript, and then parang although pares naman syempre na parang nakaka-budget sa feeling natin na mga LGBT, pero makikita mo yung difference talaga nila. So
clarify ko lang din, Rian, no? Like, the gay and lesbians, they are same-gendered relationship.
Yeah.
But trans relationship, it's opposite-gendered. So, merong differences, meron ding similarities.
Yeah, and usually yun nga sa trans, it's more on gender identity siya, right? So, pag para dito sa mga hindi masyadong familiar sa SOGI, so yung lesbian and gay, ito po ay more on dun sa sexual orientation. Sa sexual orientation siya. Pag yung trans pong pinag-uusapan natin, transgender, it's gender identity. So, ayan, no? Hopefully hindi po tayo nalilito doon. So, dito naman tayo syempre sa natin, sa next na question natin, and I think important dito na maintindihan ng mga manonood natin, no? Sabi, what can you tell us about the dynamics of love, dating and relationship based on your research? Kanina parang napahapyawan na yung ilan sa mga na-share niyo dun sa research niyo, pero baka may mga additional pa kayo doon na hindi pa na-mention din.
Sorry, bigla akong na-share yung screen ko. Pero
ako na mauna din.
ako na lang din para palit-palit, di ba? Para gano'n.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Sige. Okay, so I guess ito yung, paano ba to? Okay, I'll go to my next slide. So, ito yung kadalasan medyo nawala ako sa script doon. So, basically, yung topic namin or our paper was entitled Trans Dating, no? Exploring ano ba talaga yung script na ginagamit ng mga trans Pinay. Again, this is a very qualitative paper, so it's not really meant to generalize naman, to speak on behalf of every trans women or trans Pinays, no, my co-faculty, my friend, si Patrick, also from pamantasan ng lungsod ng Marikina. Ito yung parang napag-usapan namin na parang, baka naman interesting, no, na wala lang, parang feel good lang, ganyan, hindi naman masyado siyang requirement, parang gano'n. And then, yun nga, kasi nga, ang motivation ko talaga, ano ba talaga yung script na ginagamit nila? Baka mali yung script kasi na ginagamit ko, di ba? Okay. So, based on previous research, no, parang LGBTQ identified daw individuals are more critical in terms of normative relationship expectations. So parang laging may drive. Yung sinasabi ni Neil kanina na binabasag yung norms, yung heteronormative norms natin. However, yung sa research namin, lumalabas na yung culturally dominant heterosexual courtship conventions, ginagamit pa rin siya. Kasi nga, I guess, because trans women, or we identify as women, yung roles, gender roles na normally yun yung ina-aspire, di ba? So parang, kung kanina sinasabi ni Neil, o kung sino ang nagluluto, ganyan, kasi ako, alam to hindi ko alam kung mga friends ako na nandito, pero alam to nung mga kaibigan ko. Lagi ko sinasabi, I would be ready to give up my career, ganyan, to be a housewife. Yung ganung level talaga, yung nag-enjoy ako ng domesticated work, ganyan. I mean, I don't enjoy it now because I'm single, pero perhaps if I'm with someone, parang, sige, ako magluluto, ganyan, because I'm the woman or I'm the wife, parang gano'n. So, I guess yun yung common na nagiging theme, no? So when it comes to trans dating, ang lumalabas, parang gusto nila, niyayaya pa rin sila. So, ano yung tinignan namin in terms of the script theory, no? Since we're talking about what are the dynamics. So, ito yung common na nangyayari. So, may beginning, and then may during, and then yung end. So, beginning niya, may guys initiative. So, parang based on our research, yung mga trans Pinay na nakakausap namin, hindi or bihira na sila yung nag-ask out. Kasi sabi ni Neil kanina, kung sino yung may gusto, ano yun, Neil? Kung sino yung may gusto.
Siya yung mangliligaw.
Oo, siya yung manliligaw. Dito hindi. Parang hinihintay nila trans Pinay o namin na yung guy yung mag-ask out. No? Tapos, from the initiative, may pagpaplano. So, are you free ba on ganyan? At diba ang kilig? Kasi diba someone's asking you out or yung ganon. So, all along, akala ko kaya wala akong mga date kasi ako ba dapat yung mag-ask out? Apparently, hindi. So, parang common naman pala na guys would normally initiate that. No? And then, yun, there's a consent or may pag-oo on both parties. And then during, merong eating na nagaganap.
Eating? Joke lang.
Dinner or snacks or whatever. Wholesome.
Wholesome.
Tapos merong conversations or tinatawag naming duck talk or jute talk. Small talk and big talk. So small talk would normally involve common things like how are you, mga ganyan, what do you do, mga ganyan. So getting to know, very, diba, yung common script of trying to know that person. And then big talk would involve topics about the family, about transitioning, so mas deeper level yung pinag-uusapan. And then commonly may intimacy part. Okay. And then, after nung intimacy part, whether that's sexual in nature or just kissing, nag-e-end siya with a send-off and a final touch. So, hindi namin sasabihin namin sa final touch. So, send-off, either ihahatid or may mag-grab or mag-u-Uber. Wala na pala Uber. O mag-grab, ganyan. And then, the final touch would be, kaya namin ginamit yung word na touch kasi either touch siya, physical, or to keep in touch, whether they would still maintain that connection, no, with each other, kung tipong they would like to continue this type of getting to know you and make it a more meaningful relationship in the end. Now, yung last is we also ask about ano ba yung similarities and differences. For example, their perceived similarities and differences when it comes to cis women. Yung similarity is that sa perception ng trans women, may respect pa dapat for females and for trans women. Reserved, meaning let's say less liberal in terms of ano ng mga trans women kasi kami yung trans bayan. For women, for cis women, sila yung ginagastos. Okay? Pag reserved, yung parang kami yung mas aggressive, but cis women would be more reserved, more held back. We also about other trans women. So, ang lumalabas naman doon,
Putol yan.
Naputol
trans
yata. Akala
women
ko ako.
naputol ba ako? I'm here.
Konti.
Okay. Yung appearance daw of who to date is important. So parang mahalaga yung physical appearance. But ang weird, no? Because individually, they see other trans women na hindi pang long term, pero sila pang long term. In terms of courting, ang feeling nila yung ibang trans women ayaw magpaligaw, pero sila gusto nila nagpapaligaw. So parang, pero kahit tignan mo yung perceived differences nila, yun din yung nakikita nila na about other people. So parang ang lumalabas, kunwari kung ako yung trans woman, feeling ko pang short time lang yung ibang trans women. And then other trans women also see it that way towards me, parang gano'n. Na in the end, parang ang gusto lang naman pala din nating mangyari, lahat pala tayo naghahanap din ng long-term relationships. It seems that generally, at least dun sa mga nakausap namin, that we want to be courted as well. No? Hindi lang diretsong intimacy din kagad. So I guess yun lang. Sige, bigay na natin email kasi ang dami ko na Okay.
Thank you. Ayan. So Sir Neil, how about you, Sir Neil?
Okay, hi. Me again. So let me share my screen. Okay. So ako naman in terms of dynamics of love, dating, and relationships, kaya pala LDR tayo ngayon among people who are LGBTs, but specifically on lesbians and gays, I have 4 things lang to put it in context. No? So first thing is, I believe that love is a story. So similar to scripts, but stories have beginning, middle, and end. No? So I interviewed people through their narratives, and I asked them about their beginning of their love story, the middle of their love story, and then the desired ending of their love story. And in essence, kapag may beginning, middle, and end, there is really a plot, right? And a story it involves characters, okay? And then may it be a couple or a throuple or with with family members or with pet dogs. No, it involves actors, right? And then the story is also involves a theme. Now, interestingly about lesbians and gay relationships, there is no story scripts. Okay, so we do not have any at least before, no, and I will talk about that, no, in terms of timeline. No, parang wala talaga tayong script. Now, what is really a good story script that would really lead to a stable relationship or a long-term relationship? No, even in heterosexual couples, wala din tayong nakikita na story scripts. No? We base our love stories now according to the movies that we see, to our observation of our parents, our friends, our role models, no, to celebrities, to the books that we've read. Okay? That's how we form the stories, and that's how we like to live our stories, our love stories. Okay? And then number 2, to put it in context, LDR love, dating, and relationship is socially constructed. And the current constructions here in the Philippines is that it's very heteronormative. So our view of relationships is one is dominant, the other one is submissive, the other one is masculine, the other one is feminine. Dapat may feminine, ang roles, no, of the actors, may feminine, merong masculine, merong submissive, merong dominant, no? And then monogamous pa din yung current construction. So we value monogamy in the country, no? And then of course, Catholic, Christian, and then for our brothers and sisters in Mindanao, no? And meron din mga Muslim tradition and how it affected the lesbian and gay relationship, no? And of course, we also have values, the Filipino values like hiya, no? And others. Malakas yung shame na component na that value, eh. No? So, yun yung titingnan natin. Yung third naman, LDR, love, dating, and relationship, changes with the times. No? So depende kung anong generation ka, iba-iba ang beginning. No? For example, so if you are a boomer, the view of gay or bakla is very different. No? It's really effeminate, and then for lesbians, it's really butch. That is the view. No? And still very heteronormative, and then they meet discreetly. No? If you look at the literature during those times, boomer times, diba? Hanggang dito na lamang at maraming salamat po, mga Roderick Paulate, diba? And even the relationship there, it's not really gay to gay, but it's a masculine man and then maybe an effeminate man. No? So maybe now by definition it might be queer, no? Or even to trans. So ganun yung mga boomers. And how do they meet, no? Nagmi-meet pa sila sa theater, no? Yung madilim na lugar. Because people were discreet. So gay men were discreet. Maybe at that time they don't want to be identified as gay man because ang bakla nga is different from a gay man, no? So recent conception lang naman ng trans, no? Here in the Philippines at least. So iba yung boomers, iba din yung mga Generation X. So the Generation X, of course, meron na yung mga macho dancers na, diba, meron na tayo nakikita ng mga ganun na movies, no? Mga indie films sa mga macho dancers. So medyo similar pa din sila. They want it discreet pa din, but they're trying to explore gay-to-gay relationships na. Yung both masculine naman. No? And dito na rin ako papasok na I'm a Xennial, so I'm between Generation X and a Millennial. So the Xennials were born analog but grew up digital. So dito na pumapasok yung internet. So since internet was there, MIRC was there, no? Chatting, Yahoo Chat was there. So meeting other gay men was actually it opened, no? It opened it opened a lot of things, no? So MRC days, internet days, ito na yung mga days ng if you are from Manila, Malate days, no? Bed, yung mga ganyan. So you can see already here the change in identity. There are more masculine gay men going about. And then, of course, ngayon, ang mga millennials and Generation Zs are totally different because they were born with the internet. So dating is very different right now. Tinder, Twitter, no? And TikTok is actually, if you go to TikTok right now, the young gay men, the young lesbian women are out right there. They're showing their love, they're professing their love in TikTok. No, they're creating content about love life. No? And at my time, parang, gusto ko mag-create ng ganung content, but hindi nangyayari. But now it's totally different. No? And the Generation Alphas, those born in 2010 and above, so maybe right now 11, 12 years old sila, no? They're already starting to date, right? So hindi ko pa sila masyadong na-observe or natanong at that time, no? Nagiging dating app ang TikTok, it's true, no? So again, dating, relationships, and love changes because of of the times. And now because of the pandemic, 'di ba? Swerte ako, no? Nagka-love life ako even if there's a pandemic. Sorry, Ma'am Bear, but how did that happen, 'di ba? The whole idea of chatting and communicating, how do we date? Video calls, Netflix i-share screen namin, 'di ba? So that's how we date even during the pandemic. That's how a relationship is formed during the pandemic. No? So talagang ibang-iba na. So it changes over time. And last, ito naman, LGBTQs, they have additional stressors in their relationships. Diba? It could be internalized phobia, be it internalized homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, queerphobia, that guilt, that shame, that I am a sin, no, or I'm not worthy. No? That affects their relationship also. Okay? Aside from internalized homophobia, there is stigma, prejudice, and discrimination in the country, di ba? In the movie theaters, kapag dati, no, kapag in actors, no, opposite sex actors, Sharon and Gabby kiss, di ba? Kilig na kilig tayo, but kapag lalaki na lalaki nagkikiss sa sa on-screen movies, parang yuck, di ba? So may mga ganun na di ba? So me being a gay man in that area, parang bakit ayaw nila, di ba? And then heterosexual couples or same-gendered couples can hold hands in public. I cannot express my love in public. I want to share a story because although theoretically I love to be PDA about my love, I want to hold hands with my partner, but when I went to the US, I went to Hollywood and I was dating in 2019. There was this guy who was, the person I dated really held my hand while we were walking along Hollywood. And it's in the US, but I feel uncomfortable. Parang feeling ko dala-dala ko yung cultural, yung dala-dala ko yung prejudice in the Philippine society. Feeling ko in any second merong babato sa akin or may kilala sa akin. Diba? So parang, alam mo yun, sabi niya, why are you tense? So you are this person who is an LGBT advocate in the Philippines, but you are tense holding my hands here in Hollywood. Sabi ko, kasi when reflecting about it, parang, syempre, dala-dala ko pa din yun because I grew up in the Philippines. So, yan. And then third, there is no public and institutional support. There's no gay marriage. So even adopting kids. Although you can adopt individually, but not as a couple. Right? So ito yung mga context, to put it in context. So, dapat pala earlier ko pa itong sinabi, no? Just like any qualitative study, dapat may reflexivity. So, reflexivity, a caveat, so I'm a gay man, I am in a relationship, and I really want to be in a monogamous, and that's the ideal for me, monogamous relationship, close, and then I really want it long term. So and I'm an LGBT advocate, so merong mga anong tawag diyan, mga biases, of course, in my interpretation, right? So looking at it at the beginning, middle, and end. So just like a story. So ano yung mga similarities and differences in the beginning, middle, and end? In terms of beginning, it really depends on the timeline and generation, diba? And I talked about that earlier, the differences between boomers, Generation X, Millennials, and then the currently the Gen Zs and the Gen Ys, no? And in terms of, there is also differences between two men and two women, no, in a relationship in terms of how they begin. No? Lesbian women usually start out as friends. Nagiging emotional sila. No? Mostly, sa na-interview ko, parang they don't even know na, ay, tayo na pala. Diba? Ay, na-in-love na pala ako sa'yo. Parang they start out as friends. No? Gay men...
May kilala akong ganyan. Girl.
Talaga?
Tago natin siya sa pangalang
Tama po ba? Ganyan ba kayong idea mo of a beginning? Sa
Ako
mga
ba? Hindi ako lesbian eh. So, tanungin natin yung
so
yun. Pero ganyan-ganyan yung
yes, yes.
sinishare niya.
They
Oo.
usually start in organizations or their classmates. No, there are a lot of lesbian women started out with they come from women organizations, no? So that's how they begin, no? A lot of emotional yun. Pero meron naman ding ibang sexual, di ba? Gay men usually start with sex, no? And yun yung first stage na, yun yung beginning nila. Now, the heteronormative, the romantic beginnings usually of people is that, let's start as friends. Diba? Kapag sex kayo nag-start, hindi yan good ang ending. Ganun yung expectation, no? But really, the beginning does not matter. The beginning only matters to start the relationship, but what matters is really the middle and then your desired ending. Okay? And yun lang yun. So, kaya if there's an opposite sex couple, a man and a woman, a man wants sex and a woman wants emotional connection, diba? Para silang there's this cha-cha, no? Kaya parang ang tagal-tagal nila magligawan, diba? The men on the other hand, once they had sex, dun sila nag-start nagiging emotional. Diba? Dun sila nag-attach, no? And of course, the effects of minority stressors in the beginning of the relationship. Like for example, me, diba? Dating, no? I'm always conscious that there will be other people. No, I cannot kiss my partner automatically. Baka kasi merong ma-offend in the group, no? Or in the society. So meron mo din mga ganun. Or how about that internalized homophobia or internalized shame and guilt of being gay, no? Or seeing oneself that I am sinful. How can I be more accepting of my sexuality if sex with the same sex is actually sinful, diba? So yun that influences affects the beginning of the relationship. In terms of middle, so diba sinasabi natin na sinabi ko earlier that studies have shown really it's the middle of the relationship that matters. And si John B. Gottman, a relationship psychologist, really emphasized the importance of conflict resolution strategies in the relationship. So the way you solve conflict is very important if you will be a master couple or a disaster couple. So ang maganda lang when I interviewed gay couples and lesbian couples, and when they answered conflict resolution strategies, quantitative measures, no? I found out in my study that gay men and lesbian women, they use more positive problem solving in their relationship and humor. And maybe because this is because and then mga US yung mga psychologists, relationship psychologists, no, nagsasabi sila na this is because of their egalitarian status. No? So they're able to sit down and talk about it because they see each other as equal. Wala naman kasi may power struggle, may positioning, if Dr. Mira Ofernea would use it, may positioning sa man and woman. So nawawala kasi yung positioning. If we position ourselves to be equal, then mas more yung positive problem solving yung nangyayari. No? So yan. So there and then how about relationship fidelity statuses? No? Negotiating fidelity statuses, no? Even right now, the idea of polygamy, the idea of open relationships is not being discussed. Okay? So by the way, a part of reflexivity, I am a relationship psychologist. So I do meet with clients and I do talk about them that, especially to gay men, why don't you want to open your relationship? And some gay men do talk about relationship. Now, the question there is there cheating in open relationship? Okay. Yes, they're still cheating. So what is cheating in open relationship? Cheating in relationship is actually when you break fidelity contracts. For example, okay, you're okay to meet with other people, but number one, for example, for gay men, yes, you can have sex with other people, but our contract is number one, it shouldn't be someone that we know each other. Or number two, it shouldn't be with someone that we live in the same town or in the neighborhood. Pwede if I'm from Cebu, pwede if ever mag-Manila ka, 'di ba? Pwede ka meron doon basta hindi natin kilala, no? Or number three, if you are going to have sex with other people in our outside of our relationship, dapat you will use condom because again, issues on health like HIV AIDS among gay men is very important. Diba? For example, and then you break that contract, you had sex, and then you were not wearing a condom, then that is cheating. So these expectations in the relationship during my counseling, I bring them out. No? I bring them out. No? These needed to be talked about. Diba? In heterosexual couples, watching a movie with the opposite sex, is that cheating or not cheating? Diba? Sometimes we expect that, uy, cheating yan. Bawal ka kasing makipag-movie na one-on-one with an opposite sex. But did you ever discuss it? Okay? So dapat pa lang i-discuss natin yan. How about watching porn? Is watching porn cheating or not cheating? Then you must agree as a couple. No? Then you must agree as a couple, I'm good with that or not good with it. Diba? Then you try to maintain the contract. So it's a fidelity contract. So for gay men, polyamory, I met couples or no, thruples even. I've counseled people who are in thruples. So it's possible pala for them. It's possible also for heterosexual couples. Meron naman mga heterosexual couples na open. Okay? But may stigmatize yon compared to gay men. No? And then talking about issues on health like HIV and AIDS. And then building a family. So how does it start? So may nag-interview din ako ng mga lesbian couples. So usually they start building a family because they have children from previous relationship and then they join together. No? And then sometimes they add on pets to their family and adoption. No? But ang adoption in the Philippines is not by a couple but can gay men or lesbian women adopt? Yes, no? But merong may mga criteria and you have to submit papers, but you can adopt, no? But not as a couple. No? And of course, the effects again of minority stressors in the middle of the relationship. For example, sometimes mga atribida dito mga other gay men, no? Kapag meron din ako makilala na kapag nag-aaway naman yung couple, no? Siyempre pupunta doon sa gay friends. Tapos itong mga gay friends naman, no, binubugaw naman silang na mag-cheat or mag-away pa, no? So parang that is still part of minority stressors, no, that we deal with. So yan. And then ending. In terms of relationship satisfaction and quality, I do agree that there are some couples, no, are having a hard time feeling that they're happy in their relationship, lalo na yung mga taong hindi pa out, no, or they did not accept who they are. No? Talagang struggle yun. One of my criteria really, if I've been in a relationship, is always na I prefer someone who's out because I'm out. No? If someone will see me in the mall, alam nila na bading ako. So, malamang bading ka din, no? So, ang hirap mag-date ng isang taong hindi out. At least for me, because I'm out. So, talagang that's also, it has an effect. However, for those who are in long term, I've also met couples who are happy and who are flourishing and who are in long-term relationships. Okay? So in terms of relationship stability, there are couples that I've met and interviewed who are in long-term relationships too. Okay? But kailangan ba talagang long-term ang relationship? I've read somewhere that I had 3 marriages and all of them was successful. Diba that whole idea ba na kailangan ba talagang long-term? So that is a question, and I talked about it to my clients even. But it needs to be long term to have that benefits of diba? In positive psychology, and it was really found out that if you are in an adaptive, positive relationship, your health is good, your psychological well-being is good, you are more resilient. To have that benefits daw, you have to be in a stable long-term relationship and have secure attachments. No? So yan. And then in terms of relationship goals, tinatanong ko din sila, no? Sige, how would this end? What is your view of an ending? And then a lot of people really say, I really want to get married. And then there are also some other gay men who does not believe in marriage. But that's a fine line. Marriage, cohabitation, and then what's that other term? Same-sex marriage. What they're civil union. So there's really a fine line between them. No, but if you're really leftist in terms of advocacy, you would really say that marriage talaga, no? Because why call it an apple if it is why call it in a different name, but yun naman talaga, no? But here in the Philippines lang kasi, diba, marriage is used in the Bible, no? Kaya if we want to be more legal about it, it's civil union, diba? But it's still the same thing, no? So yeah. So, and of course, in the they also want to have families, no? And then of course, the effect din of minority stressors, like diba, I mentioned earlier, walang societal support. So how do you expect people to be in a long-term relationship if marriage is not possible for them? Diba? So what do they do? How do they move forward? So some gay men and lesbian women, okay lang kapag may children. One thing that keeps a family together are children. That's one. Sometimes wala yun for same gender. So sometimes they start a business together. So they have investments together. No? So that whole idea din kapag mamatay yung isa, diba? How can you share the investment? So you have to create a will together. There should be a will about it. So yun, ganun yung mga personal experiences ko, and then of course some observations from and narratives that I hear from my clients, and of course from my research. So the beginning, middle, and end.
Thank you so much for that. Interesting, and may pagka-comprehensive na dynamics doon sa part ng same sex. So kitang-kita natin yung difference from yung na-share kanina ni Madam Ver, Madam Ver, yung sa opposite sex. Anything na you would like to add, Madam Ver, doon? Kasi hearing that, yung shinare ni Sir Neil, di ba? Ako actually may mga realizations din ako. Anything na parang you would like to add mula doon sa dynamics ng same sex? Kasi kita natin na parang different siya talaga doon sa sa opposite.
Di ko naman kasi alam na kailangan may disclosure. Ang usapan, lang, ilang minutes lang yung pag-uusapan. Dito lang ako nakapag-prepare. No, but seriously, hindi. I agree, no? Siguro, susundan ko lang din yung sinasabi ni Neil kanina about that times are changing. Kasi in terms of, yun din, yung nakikita namin kasi yung amin nga, di ba, hindi naman siya technically, our study wasn't really talking about the relationships, but yung prelude to that relationship. And I agree with what Neil was saying na parang sex yung for gay men, diba? Tama ba, Neil? Yun ba yung, oo, na parang laging yun yung important na ingredient na apparently nagba-manifest din siya. Parang sa mga kinausap namin, laging may involved din na sex. Parang ganon. So parang you're getting, parang if you want the intimacy part of the female, may ganon. Pero if you want the emotional part of the female, you get that. And then the intimacy part of the male, parang ganon, you get it from that. So parang you get the best of both worlds kapag ganon. Pero yun din, I agree yung sinasabi ni Neil kanina about yung pag-change ng kasi karamihan nung hindi nga TikTok yung lumalabas sa amin. Parang apparently on one social media account, you can find people who are near you. Tapos,
sorry, but yes.
Basta yun. Para
Agree
ako
na.
din, nagulat ako, you can find that pala. So it's not Tinder, it's not the yellow icon, it's color blue. It starts with the letter F. Pero, pero apparently you can do that. So parang nagbabago yung, kung dynamics siya, yung paano kayo nagmi-meet. Di ba yung sinabi kanina ni Neil na for lesbians, you start out as friends. Ganito din naman siya in a way, with at least as far as the trans women that we've talked to. Pero iba nga yung setup. Hindi na siya yung parang nagkakilala kayo sa may common friends, ganyan, or may common activity. Parang mas deliberate. Kasi nga, weird lang din kasi yung range nung ang lumalab older, ano yon, hindi naman boomer, ano ba yung age ng mga 50 years old, ganyan.
Generation X.
40s. Ano na yun? Generation X. Sila yung mas traditional. Yung lumalabas, gusto nila nagsisipa. Ganyan. Naloka ako, nagsisipa sila together. Siguro din, important yung physical. Kasi di ba sinasabi ni Neil kanina na he's afraid or may anxiety involved when kissing your partner. For trans kasi, parang since we present ourselves as female, parang at least yung area na yon medyo nabablur. No? Kasi hindi, paano ko ba explain? Kaya importante yung physical expression na pinapakita ng trans at yung partner niya. Kasi nawawala yon yung ganong issue at least for those people. So, tama, na nagbabago yung panahon. Nagbabago din yung pananaw natin of what relationships are. I like to look at, bakit nga ba lagi natin gusto yung long term? Mahalaga ba talaga sa atin yung long term? Para sa akin, mahalaga. Para sa akin, mahalaga. Kasi mga ari-arian, mga gano'n. Charot. Pero, yun. So, gaano kahalaga sa isang tao, o sa isang couple, o sa isang relasyon, no, yung pangmatagalan ba or or less than what is expected.
So, ayan, oo. Yan. Okay, parang naputol si Madam Ver. Yes, ano?
Ay, naputol ba ako? Naputol
Oo.
ba ako?
Yan, bumalik ka
Okay,
na.
ayan na. Ay, sorry. Okay. O,
Si
yun.
Ria naman, no?
Ano? Hindi ako actually,
di ba?
well, naniniwala ako dun sa part ng sa emotional attachment yung nagsistart sa mga lesbians. Ganun pala yun. Pero parang sa previous na mga relationship ko naman, konti pa lang naman, parang nagsistart nga siya sa emotional, yung connection. Pero dahil tumatanda ako ay nag-change, ewan ko kasi feeling ko yung akin, medyo pa rin ako, may influence pa rin yung heteronormative na perspective when it comes to relationship. Kaya parang medyo iba pa din yung ano ko. Ngayon lang ako nagtatry. Ngayon lang ako parang nag-iiba ng way ng pag-connect sa isang individual. Like yung sobrang, yung may clarity talaga, yung talagang egalitarian yung approach na pantay tayo. Kung ayaw mo, diwag. Kung gusto mo, EDG. So ngayon lang ako nagsastart na maging ganun. Kasi before parang alam mo yung sa heteronormative na medyo pakiramdaman, sino mauna. So ako ba yung butch ako, so dapat ako yung laging mag-aano sa'yo. So nakaka-relate ako sa mga na-mention ninyo. So ngayon ako nagsa-start na na parang i-explore yung LGBT love. LGBT love. Ayun. So, yan, very interesting yung mga na-share ninyo kanina, no, sa dynamics. Gusto ko man na-expand pa siya, kaya lang baka maubusan tayo ng time. Kaya yung susunod na question dito, syempre, na-discuss na natin yung dynamics, di ba? Ngayon, ano ba what do you think more people should know about LGBTQ love, dating, and relationships to better support the LGBTQ people in our families and communities? Kasi syempre, di ba, tulad na lang kanina yung mga na-share ninyo, medyo different siya. Kung kunwari, wala ka masyadong idea sa gantong klase ng parang forms of love, dating, and relationship na connected sa LGBT, pwede ka maging judgmental, di ba? Pero yun, kaya different siya. So, ano ba yun? Ano ba yung feeling ninyo na dapat malaman nila about LGBTQ plus love, dating, and relationships to support us?
Mauna na, Ver.
Ayoko. Tapos, mas maganda na naman yung sasabihin mo.
Yes, start muna tayo sa iyo, Neil.
Actually, yung sa akin, parang iba pala yun. Sabi ko, parang iba yung hinanda ko, di ba? Parang advice yun to but So ano pa bang iba? Alam mo, love is love is love eh. So, pareho lang naman yan lahat. Diba? So, be it opposite gendered relationship or same gendered relationship, I think the essence of it all, love is love is love. So, yun.
Yeah.
But yun lang ang pumasok sa...
Magra-wrap up na pa po ba tayo? Mag-goodbye na tayo
Hindi
sa mga
naman,
audience.
hindi.
Hindi. Kasi ganun yung pagkakasabi niya. Parang wrapping up
Kasi
na tayo ng show.
yung kasi yung part ng third question syempre dapat may matutunan yung mga yung
Dapat may
family natin. Talagang pinos na dapat may matutunan sila. 'Di ba somehow para maging supportive sila sa ganitong type of relationship kasi syempre 'di ba parang iba yung perspective nila kapag may tingnan nila yung sa LGBTQ+ na dynamic. So ano ba yung feeling niyo na dapat nilang malaman to better support us sa ganito?
Sige, ako I'll answer it in the most academic, ganyan. Hindi. Puntahan ko muna kung ano yung natutunan ko dun sa study namin. And then, in terms of my experience na lang siguro. No? Hindi na ako mag-share ng screen kasi para hindi na tayo tumagal. But siguro 3 things yung madalas kong, yung at least, and I think Neil has already mentioned this, and I've also somehow touched on this as well. Yung role ng risky sexual behavior, sa palagay ko mahalagang maintindihan yon na sex is not something to be ashamed of, something that is sinful in a more cultural aspect or traditional aspect. Having said that, since sex is part of that particular relationship or that particular bond, I think mahalaga na maintindihan din natin paano ba natin papangalagaan yung ating mga kaibigan at yung ating mga sarili. So in terms of educating ourselves about what are safe sex practices, kasi mangyayari naman talaga siya eh. Pero kunwari binabanggit kanina ni Neil about polyamorous relationships, paano mo ba napoproteksyonan o natutulungan yung sarili mo? I think one way of supporting our friends is to understand, number 1, where they're coming from. And number 2, paano ba yung mga safe sex practices? No, sa palagay ko, yun yung mahalaga. And to seek those information from professionals. Yung number 2 is that there seems, at least in terms of dating scripts na based on our research, mahalaga pa rin na lagi nating i-analyze, lagi nating to reflect on what our traditions and what normative dating practices tell about our culture and our types of relationships and how it affects our behavior. So, mahalaga siguro na lagi din nating sinusuri at nagre-reflect, mahalaga pa ba to o ano yung kahalagahan nito sa pagtataguyod ng isang relasyon. At yung third is yung role ng social media and apps no in terms of dating. Parang, remember Neil, we did this study with the DOH before.
Yes.
On HIV, and lumalabas na nung time na yon nahihirapan akong humanap ng respondents kasi nandun pa rin tayo sa traditional na date. May term sila doon, ano yung dating, hindi dating sites what do you call those spots? Cruising sites.
Yeah, cruising sites.
Sa cruising sites. So parang nangyayari nung time na yon, yun yung kausbungan na applications, social media was being mas prolific yung paggamit. So parang hindi na siya physical yung area. So mahalaga na maintindihan natin how these applications, how these other venues would affect or how we try to look for relationships. Parang, di ba may isang song na nagsasabing, if you're looking for a relationship, don't look for it in a bar. Parang ganon, di ba? Kasi you're attracting those types of people. So parang, in terms of social media kasi yun din yung experience ko. For example, when I tried Grindr or something, lalo na sa Grindr, ko akala mo naman ang popogi ng mga nandun, tas gusto nila ano yun, mask for mask, mga ganyan.
Yes, masculine for masculine.
Pero putok na putok naman yung blush. Di ba, sa parang merong within the community itself, di ba? Parang there's that transphobia din, for example. We even haven't touched about professional trans women. Trans women who are professionals and yung mga, let's say, beautician or parlorista trans women. Di ba? May ganon ding conflict within the community. So, mahalaga na mapag-usapan din siya at makita paano ba ito, ano yung pagkakaiba-iba ng mga tao. In the end, I agree with Neil that love is love. No? At the end of it all, I guess yung pinakamahalaga at pinaka-importante is kung ano yung palagay mong karapatan mo sa isang relasyon. Sana yun din yung ina-aspire mo para sa mga LGBT nating kaibigan, kapatid, kamag-anak, ka-classmate. Kasi at the end of it all, ang gusto naman natin maging masaya para sa lahat. Hindi pwedeng ikaw lang yung masaya dahil straight ka. Dahil hindi mo iniisip ang panghuhusga ng mga tao, ikaw lang yung may karapatang maging masaya. So, palagi ko yun yung mahalaga na ano yung privileged perspective mo, maintindihan mo yon at paano mo matutulungan yung ibang tao na maintindihan yon. At makukuha mo yon sa pag-aaral more about what LGBTQ is, who they are, what do they stand for. And at the end of it all, di ba, lahat naman tayo gusto natin ng well-being para sa lahat.
Right.
Wow, pak! Yun yung ano no, yung sagot like yun, love is love and yun, napaka-interesting nung part na yun. Kumbaga, kailangan mong alamin para malaman mo kung saan nanggagaling. Kasi yun nga, iba-iba pa rin talaga tayo nung experiences natin. So to better support your family, your friends na LGBTQ+, no, mabubulol pa ako. To better support them, maganda nung nag-ask din tayo, nag-reach out tayo sa kanila and ask them kung ano ba yung type of help na makakatulong sa kanila din. Diba? So, kasi tayo yung nag-a-assume para sa kanila. So, wag muna kayong aalis na dalawa kasi, yes, may additional pa. Yeah.
Yes, ano ko lang, no, maybe a summarize and add on to my call to action ba, to them. It's really, I have this 6S na tinatawag ko. No? And addition to sa 3S ni Ma'am Mira. Sa akin,
Wow.
if you're an ally, what can you do? No? Have that conversation with the self and ask yourself, ano bang mga prejudices ko? Ano bang privilege ko? Diba? Si Vern talks about it. Let's look at our privilege. So, what am I comfortable with? What am I not? What am I not comfortable with? What are my values? Am I sex positive or not? No? So have that conversation with self. And it really starts with self. And please stay informed. No? Stay informed with the current researches, kung ano yung mga LGBTQ, no? So ano yung mga dynamics, no? Just continue to stay informed. And then sabi nga ni Rian kanina, let's talk to them, listen to their stories. So how they begin, ano bang mga hope nila, ang aspiration nila in their love life. Kamusta ba sila? Kamusta ang nag-aaway nila? Are they close relationship? Are they not? How are they managing conflicts? How are they managing their relationship? Are they also, what are their wins in their relationship? Listen to their stories. And then speak up. Speak up for them. Speak up for us also. And when we say we speak up, you support also the anti-discrimination ordinance. Diba? And that's very important. Provide safe spaces, physically and online, emotionally. Provide that safe space. And last, and this is my favorite, because I'm a positive psychologist and I'm into wins and celebration. Celebrate with us. Our anniversaries, our if there are commitment ceremonies, celebrate it with us, our birthdays together. I think that's important. When I post pictures of me and my partner, and those affirmations are really helpful for me and for our well-being. So, yan. So those are my call to action and tips lang to end.
So thank you so much. Very helpful siya at mabilis siyang maintindihan yung 6S. So remember nyo lang yan, guys. Ito, isang example na to na kapag nag-join ka na ganitong klase ng webinar, natutulungan mo yung sarili mo kung paano mo din matutulungan yung friends and family mo na part ng LGBTQ+. Ayan. So wag muna po kayong umalis, Madam Ver and Sir Neil, kasi magiging part pa rin kayo syempre ng ano natin. May mga question and answer pa tayo later on.
Akala ko
Yeah,
may
pero
intermission number, may sasayaw. Sex bomb, ganun.
sana all. Pero hindi. Baka pwede rin kapag may time pa tayo. Pero syempre, yun. Kaya maraming salamat. Pero yun, meron pa tayo mamayang Q&A. Kaya standby lang po muna kayo
Okay.
dyan.
So we can
Yes.
ask, they can start asking their questions na ba? Ano ba?
Later. Oo.
Later.
So parang
Okay.
kailangan pa natin mag-share pa yung ating reactor na na-invite din si
Alright.
Dr. Yes, si Dr. Mamaya ko sabihin. So thank you so much Madam Ver, Binibining Ver at Sir Neil for sharing your expertise on love, dating and relationship. So ayan guys, punong-puno at siksik talaga yung ating natutunan, no? Kung ano yung meron dito sa love, dating, relationships ng LGBTQ+. At nakabase pa talaga siya sa research, no? Ngayon naman, syempre, tinatawagan din natin yung isa din sa, paano natin siya i-describe? Kasi ako din, isa ako sa talagang parang nilulook up ko din siya, no? Siya yung in-invite namin na reactor to share her expertise. Ayan, lalo pa yung kanyang experience dito sa clinical practice, no? So siya yung reactor namin para dito sa event na to. So hindi ko na papatagalin pa. Ayan, si Dr. Ana Cristina Tuazon. So Dr. Ana is a licensed clinical psychologist possessing a master's in psychology and a doctorate in clinical psychology. She received both degrees from the Wright Institute in Berkeley, California, USA. She is currently an associate professor at the Department of Psychology at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and is a graduate faculty of their clinical psychology program. She is also a clinical supervisor for UP Diliman Psychosocial Services or yung PsychServe. So kung familiar kayo doon, guys, ayan yung PsychServe, no? Pwede ninyong i-like din yung Facebook page nila kasi may mga helpful silang infographics related sa psychology and sa well-being, lalo na sa mental health. Si Dr. Ana, ayan, kung for sure, baka nakita niyo na ito sa newsfeed ninyo, lalo pa kapag follower kayo ng Kapuso or ng GMA, ayan, nakikita niya siya kasi she is currently hosting a show sa GMA, no? Sa GMA News online. Ang title nun, Share Ko Lang. So ako, nanood ako ng ilan sa mga episodes niya. Ayan, so di ko na mapatagalin pa. Dr. Ana. Hi, Dr. Ana.
Hi, Rian. Hello, everyone. Hi, Dr. Neil. Hi, Binibini or Madam, whichever one, Ver. Okay, so yan. So I was really listening talaga, no, kay Neil, kay Ver. And it's really got me thinking talaga. And siguro the perspective I will share is really as a clinician, diba? Someone who works with LGBTQ families and couples, or working actually sometimes with the parents, right? Parents and the families, right? Of LGBTQ individuals. So siguro, like something that really impressed me, that struck me kanina, is that sabi nga ni Neil, no, we were talking, diba, in the prep meeting, na actually when I work with, LGBT couples, and particularly same gendered couples, there's really not much difference. At least ako, as a clinician, di ba, in terms of the strategies, the interventions, what the problems are. Ang sabi ko nga, usually the problems are not about identity or gender. Sometimes it's about sex, and that's for everyone. And usually, lalo na if they're cohabitating or living together, it's really roommate problems. Right? Sinong burara, sinong OC, yan. And then, of course, jealousy problems, control issues, yan. And that's really common. And that's common also with heterosexual couples as well. Now, the biggest difference that I could see doesn't really come from within the couple unit, but comes from outside the couple unit. So this is similar to what Dr. Neil talks about. These are minority stressors, diba? It's about the reception of family and others outside of the couple unit. putting pressure, right? Putting some influence on the couple, and couple, whether two or more people. And so really the concern and the issue is are we accepted? No, so the public image or the relational, no, the relationships outside. And if you think about it from a Filipino or psikolohiyang Filipino standpoint, diba? Because extended family is so important. We are such, diba, specifically relational beings. Hindi tayo yung type na wala tayong pake. Kung anong sabihin ng tao, pero kasi may pake tayo. Diba? Especially if it's family, if it's extended family. And so the acceptance becomes a big issue for some, diba? And that doesn't depend on the couple, that depends on the family outside. So siguro kanina, diba, yung mga summaries nila, parang please, diba, parang please support, tanggapin, and parang do unto others, right? Wish unto others what you wish for yourself. It's really what that is, you know, so the acceptance. Also, something that it was in my notes, no? Pero Neil also talked about it. So I was like, wow, talaga nagtutugma naman. Kasi I was thinking, actually, when I work with gay couples specifically, kasi yun na nga, same with Neil, I do talk to them about what are the rules, no? It's always better, by the way. And for allies that are here, and by virtue of being in this webinar, no? I dub you allies, right? Because you're here to learn, you're here to be informed. For the straight cis allies here, it's the same, no? All relationships, you must have explicit, articulated negotiations in your relationship. Dapat klaro. Wag na yung di ba? Parang indirect or unspoken. And somehow, when I ask them to negotiate on the rules, on the roles, di ba? How to fill each other's needs, no? How to communicate, parang mas madali, honestly. Mas madali. I don't know, Neil, if in your experience also, no? Parang mas madali i-coach ang mga same-gendered or gay couples. Kasi walang pull of, parang hindi, ako yung lalaki. Bakit ko gagawin yan? Right? Parang, why should I be more affectionate? Wait a minute, right? Walang ganon. So, mas madali talaga siya kasi kanina nga, both Neil and Ver were talking about relationship scripts, stories, and the thing is, because, pros and cons, right? One, downside, of course, walang models. So isolated LGBTQ individuals are the big disadvantage, right? If they don't find if they don't find their community or their pseudo families, if they're completely isolated and they have no model, talagang pakapa yan, right? Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it goes really, you have to make a lot of painful mistakes before you find your footing, no, or your belongingness. One upside though, na hindi masyadong established, just like the heteronormative, Roman Catholic kind of, gendered roles and stories and scripts about, of course, may ligawan, may courting, and then you get married, only then will sex come after, and marriage always has to have babies. So, yun naman ang pressure sa mga heteronormative couples, right? Heterosexual couples, the pressure to have babies. With people who don't have such solid, rigid, inflexible scripts, then they have more freedom, more leeway to really co-create and own these scripts for themselves as a couple. Diba? What do we want as a couple? What kind of ending, sabi nga ni Nia, what kind of fidelity status? And that's something I'm much more familiar with, sexual behavior and fidelity statuses. So there is an upside and downside to that. LGBTQ couples that somehow are, get them, parang they become aware, diba? With lack of models, with lack of rules imposed by others, we can create our own rules, right? Or actually, because the rules are actually stacked against us, they're designed for us not to be happy, right? They're designed, diba, against our own happiness. Then why should I care? Diba? Then nasa-situate nila yung value of these rules. Nako-contextualize. Hindi siya absolute. Ay, rules yan eh. I have to follow it. So if we can get LGBTQ couples there in that state of agency, even with a system or society whose rules aren't supportive, right? Whose rules don't refuse to recognize them or don't give them an accessible, like a way, an established way through. If we can give them that sense of agency, which of course there has to be a sense of safety, right? That's where the allyship comes in. You allow them to create, you allow them, parang you protect them and allow them to be able to create their rules. So if they're living together, wala nang living in sin. If you're living together as an LGBTQ couple, kasi yun na nga sabi nila, if my entire self is a sin, then who cares, right? So if we allow people to co-create or co-construct what matters to them, then that's really, I think that really is healthy for the relationship. The other aspect, I know I have so many thoughts, because it generated so many ideas, what they talked about, is actually, sa akin, in some cases, there are certain situations where money is a bigger power determinator. Is that the right word? It's a bigger source of power differential rather than gender. Who has the money, who makes the money, right? Gets the power, so to speak. So kanina I was curious, and nothing conclusive here. I didn't have a study for this, but what is the intersection of money and gender when it comes to an intimate romantic relationship? It also, parang, kasi yun ang nakikita natin, di ba? That's why, for example, in trans relationships, parang bakit may ganong stigma, right? But may ganong stigma. But if you think about it, if it's a male that has the money, that spends for the girl, and what is this? This is the traditional marriage, right? It hasn't always been stigmatized. Bakit mo ginagastahan yung partner mo? This is the traditional conservative ideal relationship, right? Where male as husband is the breadwinner and the wife is the stay-at-home wife. But how come when transferred onto trans relationships or to same-gendered relationships, suddenly there's stigma? So the researchers here in this room, please, I don't have anything empirical on that. Neil, go ahead.
Si Madam Ver yung nagkwento talaga about money, no? But nakalimutan ko din yan, no? to look into the power of because of money. But I do agree, even earlier in the misconception, I did say na piniperahan ka lang yan. Diba? May mga ganun talaga na experiences na was more money, more powerful. And in the future when I do counseling with them, I should take a look at it also. Thank you for that reminder, Doc Ana.
Kaya hindi ako nagka-counseling kasi mga ganyang Tingnan mo, di ba si Dr. Tuason very soothing yung kanyang
Pero very interesting yung na-share niya kasi
pero yes, that's correct. Oo. Yun yung lumalabas din na parang laging issue ng mga trans women, at least those people that we've talked to, na parang dun pumapasok yung, it becomes a bit more complicated kasi we're trying to fit the heteronormative narrative, pero pagdating na sa pera, iba yung nagiging usapan. No? So parang there is that always na parang may concern na, sige, as trans, dahil mas desperate kami o yun yung kami yung kailangan gumastos. But not all, I'm not saying na in general to. What I'm trying to say lang is that yun yung common misconception na feeling ko sometimes ina-actualize na din ng ibang trans. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, no? What I'm trying to say lang is that these are the realities that a lot of trans women are experiencing. And therefore, namamodel lalo yung, are you staying in this relationship because of love? Or are you staying in this relationship because you need me or because of my money now? Yeah.
Medyo nakakasad lang yung ganong yung ganong question mo. Pero di ba? Interesting yun. So, thank you so much na Doc Ana. May mga na-realize din tuloy ako doon sa mga na-share mo. Pero personal na siya. Pero okay. Medyo may point talaga siya. So, ayun. Thank you so much doon sa mga very helpful insights. And I think ito na yung time para magkaroon tayo ng chance na tanungin yung ating mga experts. Yan kasama si Dr. Ana about LGBTQ+ dating and relationships. So if you have any questions, guys, nako, i-comment niyo na yan kasi sayang yung chance. Nandito na sila Doc Ver and Neil and Dr. Ana.
Ako may
Yan.
tatanong ako habang nagtatype yung mga kay Dr. Ana. So, you've had ba experiences of, for example, trans couples, and usually issues nila, ay, nagbe-break ba ako?
Nag-break
Oo, siguro 2 or
Yeah.
3 common issues lang when it comes to why they would seek your help, and how were they able to resolve it siguro.
Yeah.
Siyempre,
Nako,
yun doon ako nakarelate kasi,
Yeah.
oo.
This is where I wish Dr. Divine Salvador actually
Yeah,
is
yeah.
here, because she's the one actually, no? She practices. Parang when I have a referral like that, I actually send it to her because she really sort of knows it and she does studies on it. Yeah. So I don't want to I don't want to claim an expertise on that. Kasi more on more on personal social circle experience
Okay.
ako pagdating sa trans couples eh. Yeah.
Pero usually, you would
I think nag-break. Oo, nag-break si Madam Ver.
Hello.
pag mga important talaga
Hello.
na mga questions.
Bakit
talaga
gano'n?
nagbe-break
Nakikipag...
Sinasabotage ka, Madam Ver.
Alam mo si...
Ayan, so habang nagbe-break, nagbe-break si Madam Ver. Ayan,
Ito na
go.
ako. Okay. Sorry, no, question ko lang, parang di ba you would usually refer them to Doc Divine. Pero do you have any parang, ano yung reason ba muna nila? Parang gano'n. Yun lang, parang ano yung common...
Siguro like, really sa totoo lang, like when usually it's nothing to do necessarily with the, diba, with the gender identity. Diba? It's very human problems. Right? It's like universal human problems. I want to be in love. I don't want to be single anymore. How do I know that my partner really loves me for me? Yan ang ko, di ba? Parang how do I know na kasi actually ang daming trust issues. and like valid trust issues, right? Because and so parang ako as a clinician, it's really, regardless of who's in front of me, it's always protect your heart. I always come at it from the lens of protect your heart, but don't shut it out, right? Protect your heart and proceed carefully. Yeah, that's it. And then sort of balancing nga, diba? Parang, okay, I yearn for love. I really do. And there are many things I'm willing to, diba? To negotiate for that love. And then you can still do that and negotiate a lot. And then keeping your self-respect in there. Yeah, so that balance. And those are universal relationships.
I think yun yung maganda na sinabi ni Doc Ana, no? Na parang universal siya. If I didn't qualify it as LGBT or a trans, if it's just a regular cisgender person, it's the same thing, no? Yung issues din na lumalabas.
So yun, thank you, no? Ang ganda ng, kumbaga, walang halos difference. Parang, cis man or trans man, it's almost the same thing. Yeah, so yun, thank you. Meron na tayong question. Actually, may isang anonymous, may isang open talaga. So doon muna mag-start sa, may anonymous. Connected siya sa trans, no? So magandang question niya. So, dito muna sa first question, sabi ni Gerald, hello. Sabi niya, anyone can answer though, but I want to ask, especially among gay men relationships, usually bang disaster ang nangyayari sa relationship if nagsa-start sa sex, like among sa mga research and stuff? Siguro gusto lang niya talaga ma-make sure kasi narinig niya yung sinabi ni Sir Neil, 'di ba? Pero siya, oo. So parang nakakaano siguro 'yon. So ayun, talaga bang disaster ang nangyayari sa relationships if nagsa-start sa sex?
Right. Yun nga yung I mentioned this earlier that the beginning Okay, the beginning does not really matter much. Now, according to John B. Gottman, si John B. Gottman did say something about a beginning. I'm sorry. For John B. Gottman, a relationship psychologist in the US, friendship is one of the factors that really deepen the relationship, but not necessarily the beginning, because there are a lot of beginnings kasi, like for example, for Chinese culture, diba, or diba, they have arranged marriages. They don't really start with friendship. No? So in arranged marriages, they might start with commitment first, and then have sex because they expected to reproduce. Then along the way, they develop a friendship. No? They increase the intimacy. So in terms of prediction, walang nagsasabi no na if you start with sex, you will end up in a disaster. It has always been the middle, the way you negotiate conflict in your relationship, that will predict disaster or master couples. Like ano pa yung mga prediction nila? The emotion of contempt is very salient. You can really predict that your relationship will end in disaster. What else? The more time, 6 hours more compared to master couple. The master couples have 6 hours more in their relationship compared to the disaster. Meaning, in a week, 6 hours more. Like, they ask about what's going on with their day. Then they send their goodbyes. They may mga ganun. They have 1 hour of reunion meeting. They have hugs. So 6 hours more daw sila in their relationship. So that's what predicts relationship stability. And not, but of course in the middle, marami ding nagsasabi na good sex is important, for relationship stability. But in terms of beginning, hindi. I do have some couples who started bilang FBs or FUBUs in their relationship, because that's really I don't want to say normal, but there's a lot of things that's happening in gay relationship about it. And then eventually they start with sex buddies, and then they get more intimate, they develop intimacy, and then they start committing. So yeah.
Yeah. So, yun, malinaw, no? Hindi necessarily na disaster kagad siya. It's more on negotiation, kung paano mo talaga somehow na manage yung kung anong relationship yung nabubuo din sa inyo. So, yun, kaya kalma lang tayo dyan. So, meron tayong interesting questions sa anonymous natin, audience. Sabi niya ito, I'm in a long-term relationship where my partner is currently transitioning into a trans woman. There are many layers to this. COVID, male to female with a cis partner. Ayan. Do you have general tips either sa one, transitioning during pandemic, number 2, supporting your partner through transition if you are cis? So ulitin ko para mas clear, no? So long-term relationship where my partner is currently transitioning into a trans woman. So there are many layers to this, which is yung COVID, tsaka yung male to female with a cis partner. So do you have general tips either sa number 1, transition during pandemic, number 2, supporting your partner through transition if you are cis? Yan.
May question ako rin. The sender of that question, anong gender identity niya? Tsaka orientation siya. No? So,
ang hirap
siya yung partner. Siya yung partner, di ba?
Yeah, but
partner niya. Pero tinatanong natin kung ano siya.
Oo, kasi
kung sino yung nagtanong. Oo.
Pwede kasing gay man, tapos to gay, tapos nag-transition siya into trans.
Ano,
diba?
So yung nagtanong ay cis female.
Cis female.
Cis female siya, tapos yon yung question niya.
So hindi niya partner. Na-confuse ako.
So cis female siya, tapos nasa long-term relationship siya, na kung saan yung partner niya nagta-transition into a trans woman. Ayun.
So yung long-term partner niya ang nagta-transition?
Yes.
Okay, sige. So ano yung tips, general tips on number 1, transitioning in the time of COVID?
Yes. And then supporting your partner through transition if you are cis. Ayan, so next topic.
Ito na, bumalik na ako. Narinig niyo ba ako? Ayan na,
Yeah.
nandito na ako ulit. Okay. Okay na. Okay.
Yes.
So, mahalaga, sundin natin yung protocols ng IATF, di ba? In all aspects naman. Parang wala Diyos ko pag sinabi, pag transition, exempted ka. Hindi yun, di ba? So, I guess, hindi ko kasi alam ano yung ibig na sabihin of transitioning because there are different ways of transitioning, di ba? It could be medical, it could be surgery, it could be about changing the clothes, the hair, and stuff. So, I'm not quite particular kung anong stage siya or ano. But in every example,
Okay, parang nagbe-break si Madam
na naman
Ver.
ako. Ayan na.
Ayan ang kalaban natin, no? Na-mention mo kasi yung IATF yan tuloy. Chos.
Okay na. Stable na ulit.
Ayan.
Stable na ba?
Nafe-feel niya kasi yung passion, so medyo natin. Joke lang.
Oo. So, ayun. So, ako, parang ang feeling ko lang, dapat, you always need to consult, lalo na kung biomedical siya, to consult professionals about it. No? So, if you're undergoing surgery or ano ba yung credentials ng doctor na to at ano yung credentials ng hospital na to. And if they're following the minimum standard siguro of in terms of health and safety. So that's the first one. The second one is how can you be, ano yung question niya? Sorry.
Supporting your partner through transition if you are cis.
Ako, it comes about learning more about what transitioning means, no? Hindi naman kasi natin matatapos yan in one whole session. So there are different needs. Again, depende kasi kung ano bang nasang stage siya ng pagta-transition. For example, kung HRT siya, hormone replacement therapy.
Nasa HRT ka kasi sabi nila ngayon.
Sabi niya, okay. Kasi syempre kung HRT siya, di ba, dahil binabago mo yung hormones mo, may changes siya in terms of your behavior, kung let's say, mainitin ang ulo and stuff. So parang, in the same manner that this person is changing, dapat mahalaga din na ready ka dun sa mga changes na yon that person might not be aware of. So, dapat you're coming from a position that this person is changing for the better. This might not be a good time to parang ikaw yung mag-focus, but this is about her, this is about your partner, trying to live her life to the fullest. So being understanding about what those changes are and what are the effects kung HRT man siya, allows you to anticipate those changes and to prepare, no? Meron ako kasi minsan naririnig ng ibang mga kaibigan na medyo masungit, as in masungit talaga. So, dahil hindi nila naintindihan na yun pala yung effect nun, medyo nagulat sila. So, trying to learn, parang ano yan, di ba? If you get your vaccine for the flu virus or for the COVID, mahalaga na maintindihan mo ano yung mga side effects nito at ano yung pwede mong i-prepare ahead of time. So that, kasi para naman sa ikabubuti mo yan. Change is never easy, but having that understanding heart na itong person na to will become better, will be happier, will allow you to prepare better, to guide you in your actions.
Wow, thank you so much doon sa na-share mo.
I want to add something
ako
to that.
Ano? Oo.
If it's okay.
Doc. Yes, Doc.
Yeah, no, just to add, no, tama, siyempre, no, definitely napaka-important ng sinabi ni Bear. At the same time, parang yun na nga, realize that the transition is happening at many, many layers at this point, which is, of course, there's the transition of the person, of your partner, and then there's going to be an inevitable transition of your relationship. Right? There's going to have to be that transition. But yun din yun, eh, no? So it doesn't mean you have to do it all at the same time. I think that's what Bear is saying, right? You shouldn't privilege that. Wait, but what about me? My needs, right? I need you to stay a certain way. You know, like I don't think that's where the person who asked the question is at, because the question is how do I support my partner? No, at the same time, yun na nga, that need, your need, whoever's asking the question, cannot be on pause forever. You cannot hold your tongue forever on that, kasi that's also, di ba? At a certain point, it's gonna come out. And so you can have an explicit discussion with your partner. When will we talk about us as a couple? Pero siguro for now, because there's this very big, right, change, and no matter what, right, as there's going to be a change for the better, it's going to be happier no matter what's happening.
Mhm.
And so maybe we can focus on that, and then later, right, let's sort of put a timeline. When do we now talk about, will our relationship change? And there's really no such thing as no, 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 don't worry, nothing will change in our relationship, because that's just a lie, right? In fact, just last night, sorry, in my class in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy class, we were talking about there's no such thing as a relationship that doesn't change. All relationships do, right? Hormonal replacement or not, they do. It's just that obviously here now you have a biomedic, right? You have a biomedical push that does it. You have an identity, an identity transition
Mhm.
here. So really just working on radically accepting, okay, it will change. Because sometimes I think, right? Sometimes what happens, syempre the person understandably is so focused on their own transition, right? Because
Mhm.
it's something they've been wanting, right? It's something that's so important to them in the moment. They somewhat forget to assure the relationship and the partner, don't worry, I haven't forgot, we're going to talk about this, we're going to address this. So multiple layers, right? Individual, as a relationship, as a couple, and you may of course, you may decide to stay together. And what does that look like? What does that mean now? And maybe sometimes, what happens? The identity of the non-transitioning partner also changes because napaka-important ng relationship, right? They will decide. Now, actually, like they will also have to grapple with their own identity and what that means, di ba? To be dating now a female. Di ba? If I'm cis female, what does it mean? Now I'm dating a woman. And you have to allow that to also sort of take its process. Yeah. So that's really what I want to sort of add to it. Yeah. Do
Mhm.
I watching out for all these moving parts?
Wow. So, ayan, thank you so much, Doc and Madam Verdon, sa na-share ninyo. How about Sir Neil? Would you like to add something?
Okay na ako niyan.
Yes.
Yes, I do agree. Oo, para sa ibang question na. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think dahil kulang na tayo sa time, isang question na lang yung i-accommodate natin. Sayang, guys. So, pero, yun, hopefully, marami kayong natutunan. Kasi ako mismo, marami ako natututunan ngayon. So, from Claire Villegas, sa YouTube natin ito, no? Sabi, what is the best way to support yourself if hindi ka pa out? It's very hard to introduce yourself to the dating game kasi when you're not out, but are seriously attracted to someone. So, papaano daw yung tip nun? Best way to support yourself if hindi ka pa out. It's very hard to introduce yourself kasi sa dating game when you're not out. But you are seriously attracted to someone.
So wala talagang right script for this one. No? So again, tayo, no? If you are not out, most often than not, you will also attract people who are not out. So, so yun din yun. And it's okay. It's okay. Your relationship does not need to be out. It's okay. Learn where are the cruising sites, no, of these people. So, pero I do also think naliliit din yung mundo mo. No? Your perspective of dating will be also very little. No? So, most probably your beginning no will be very little. No? So,
yeah.
That's what I can just say for now.
Thank you.
Addition.
Yes, Madam Ver?
Kasi for me, coming out is a process. It's a personal process. However, I think, at least based on my experience, some people who have gained that kind of empowerment are the ones who are ready to come out. So baka din you're adding too much pressure. May problema ka na nga sa love life, magdadagdag ka pa ng another problem. So baka yung dapat mo munang tignan is, ano ba yung reason why you're not coming out? Is it because of your family or friends? If that's the case, then ang reason ba is you don't have a work, you can't provide for yourself? Kasi kung ganun, baka din, hindi nakikipag-date ka, diba, yung parang yung traditional na nakikipag-date ka, hindi mo naman pala kayang palamunin or something. Well, hindi yun yung ano ko, pero ang sinasabi ko lang is that when we talk about coming out, it's a personal process and whether you're ready or not. Now, baka kasi, yun muna dapat siguro yung pagtuunan mo ng pansin before even dating. Kasi tama yung sinasabi ni Neil nililimit mo, magiging limited yung space mo Pero if you're out na kasi, then whoever you want to date wouldn't matter. Why? Because you're self-sufficient, no? It's 2021 already. So mas empowered ka to make your own choices, to make your own decisions. And in a relationship, although mahalaga para sa akin mahalaga naman yung sasabihin ng mga tao, pero mas mahalaga kasi kayong dalawa na nandun sa relasyon na yun. So kung ikaw mismo limited ka, then paano kayo pareho magpo-flourish, di ba? So ako yung siguro personal na lang na take ko yon, hindi naman yung professional na take. But trying to find out how you can empower yourself on being out. And being out doesn't mean, shouting na, bakla ako. Hindi mo naman kailangan gawin yun Pero yung mawawala yung takot mo that these are things, diba, that people can say about you, this sense of security ka, that helps in a particular relationship. Feeling ko, Neil, kasi diba, parang, kasi I dated na ng na hindi out. Hindi. So parang minsan ang hirap na kailangan yung magtago. Pero mas mahirap on his part kasi hindi siya out. On my end, walang problema. So I can always decide. So hindi ako natatakot lumabas kasi I'm out Pero siya yung may takot. So between him and me, siya yung mas hindi masaya. Hindi siya nagiging masaya kasi nalilimit siya Diba? Parang ganon. So ako, parang baka yun muna yung dapat.
Thank you. Doc Anna, baka meron po kayong gustong idagdag?
I parang just to add again to Ver, it's like, kasi remember, coming out is not an all or nothing, right? Experience. Diba? Process nga So it depends, right? Are you just simply not out to your parents or to your family, but you have a set of friends? Right? Or a community. Kasi that will determine, sabi nga ni Neil, how small? Kasi kung talagang not even friends, not even anyone, paano yung nga yung date nyo? Wala. Who's gonna witness your relationship? And then there's gonna be dissatisfaction there, right? So a lot of, Filipino LGBT couples, they not necessarily out to their parents. And diba? In other sense of the word, they are out, right? Like with their friends, they're going out. Parang ano na lang yan. I tell my younger clients, I tell them, just give your parents the benefit of ignorance. They just don't want you to say it, but they kind of know, and they let you do whatever you want. They just don't want any words. So parang may ganon, di ba? I'm sure may nuance in Filipino families and being out. So yeah, I totally do agree. And then there is a readiness to get into a relationship. Not everyone is ready. Just because you like someone, just because you want to be in a relationship, and being out. There's an overlapping maturation there, right? So if you're able to be out, meaning you're no longer embarrassed, you've worked through your inner shame, your internalized homophobia, perhaps, right? You have worked through that, and you're willing, because you need to be able to protect, right, your partner. That's also the thing. If you're not out, how can you protect that partner? And so, it's a concept of readiness. If maybe you're in your teens, very much dependent, you're still in school, you do need your family, okay, right? If you're our age, or if you're in 30s or so, I would always say, you've got to work on it. Diba? Work on your yourself first, then you won't have these really unnecessarily complicated relationships and this unnecessarily painful endings. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doc Ana doon. Parang nakarelate ako sa sinabi ni Doc Ana, 2 beses mula sa previous relationship ko, no? Yung na-mention ni Doc Ana, like, na yung mga parents, hindi nila talaga totally parang, hindi nila pinag-uusapan, but they kinda know nga yung kung anong sexuality mo. Like, for instance, meron ako ex before, na hindi kami nag-come out sa kanya na kami, pero ako lang naman dinadala niya sa bahay nila for 11 years. Pero syempre, ayun, naghiwalay din kami eventually. Best friend na for 11 years na ako lang dinadala, tapos yun na. Pero understood na yung sa kanila. And natanggap nila nang walang sinasabi talaga totally na, tanggap na kita sa family, parang ganon. And then yung sa part nung sa closeted nga, sa experience ko din, medyo mahirap. Dapat ready ka din if ever talaga papasok ka sa relationship. So pag-iisipan mo din talaga. So take note yung mga na-share nila kasi sobrang helpful yun. Lalo na sa mga nakikinig ngayon na nandun sa stage na yun. So, so sad kasi ang dami ko natututunan din as moderator, and sabi nga ng isa sa mga nag-comment sa atin, the talks and conversation hurts so good. So, yeah.
That's another talk.
Another part. Diba? Mukhang magkakaroon tayo ng sana magkaroon tayo ng part 2. Pwedeng hindi naman sa June, 'di ba? Pwedeng hindi June, pwedeng another month, no? Kasi ang naman ng pag-support naman sa LGBTQ+ ay all year round naman yung ginagawa talaga. So,
February,
ayun.
para iba naman.
O kaya bago mag-Christmas, para hindi naman malamig ang Pasko, ano ba yun? Joke lang.
Pero
So, ayun,
it's actually nagse-celebrate ng Pride December.
Yeah, meron din.
Meron din sa December.
So, pwede natin ituloy ito sa mga susunod na buwan. 11 years, pero grabe naman yung comment ni John. Nakamove on naman ako na doon. Tagal-tagal na, no?
Tsaka pa siya noon? Bagets pa siya noon.
Oo, di ba? So nakita mo
Bagets
naman.
pa siya noon.
Yung sumunod na relationship, di ba, wala ding nangyari kasi out lang siya sa akin. So nagtatago kami. Charot lang. Mag-open up.
Tsaka magastos pag hindi kayo out. Naku, Diyos ko. I swear. Sa ibang city kayo pupunta. Naku.
Naniniwala ako dyan. Nagpunta kami sa ibang lugar para lang talaga magsolo. So, ayun na. Gastos, anyway, financial. So yun nga.
Maybe for some people it's fun for them, no? To go,
fun and painful siya.
Fun and expensive.
Fun, expensive, painful, ganon, heartbreaking. So, ayun, thank you so much sa ating mga panelists. Ayan, so Dr. Verreyes, Neil Quintanar, and Dr. Ana Tuazon. Thank you so much po sa inyong lahat. So, sad to say, guys, no, syempre matatapos yung ating event, 'di ba? May pagtatapos talaga lahat. So, ayaw man natin sila i-let go, pero kailangan natin silang i-let go. So, for our closing remarks, ayan, tatawagin ko naman syempre ang aming queen, ang chairperson ng PAP LGBT Psychology Special Interest Group. And she's also a professor sa University of the Philippines Diliman Department of Psychology. Si Dr. Kiniklaim ko na no? Kasi queen talaga yan Slayer of Dragons, ganyan, Mother of Queers. Dami ko pinapangalan sa kanya, nalilito na ako. So, si Miss Beatrice Torre, ayan.
Hi everyone! Maraming salamat na pressure ako rin. Pero I think in a good way. At I'm sure si Ma'am Mitch, kahit hindi natin nakikita yung video niya, I'm sure tumatango siya na parang, Bea, ma-pressure ka na dyan sa pagiging Dr. Bea Torre. Pero thank you to everyone who has stayed with us. Ayan, nag-on si Ma'am Mitch ng camera para lang iparating yung support niya sa sentiment na ito. Pero thank you everyone. Again, sobrang nagpapasalamat kami sa members ng panel, si Dr. Verreyes, si Sir Neil Quintanar, si Dr. Ana Tuazon, and of course, our spirited moderator, si Rian Portugues, aka your millennial psychologist. So nagpapasalamat kami sa inyong wisdom, sa inyong candor. Nakakatuwa yung ganitong klaseng webinar kung saan we learn from your studies and your clinical experience, but also from your personal experience, which was really, I think, what's part of our vision for this event, no? Tapos gusto ko lang i-share sa audience na actually, yung initial vision namin sa event na ito, we wanted to hold it during February, parang Valentine's event. Kasi nga, parang lagi na lang pag Valentine's, laging cis hetero couples yung sineselebrate. Parang gusto natin ma-spotlight din yung LGBTQ love and dating and relationships or LDR, sabi ni Neil. Pero nung time na yon hindi na itawid. Pero sobrang grateful ako sa panel natin. Kasi sila din to, yung original namin na in-invite na they were willing to give it a second chance. Napakahalaga talaga ng second chances, no, sa usapin ng love, dating, and relationship. And they were able to spare time during, I'm sure, a very busy month for all of us, Pride Month. And I'm very happy na nagawa natin tong event na to kasi parang minsan sa tingin ko we I think a lot of us have been part of Pride events. We've talked about important issues and experiences. Pero I think minsan hindi masyadong napapag-usapan yun nga, yung love and dating and relationship experiences ng LGBTQ people. But that is also, as we've seen today, parang pwedeng napakahalagang bahagi din siya nung pag-support ng dignity, pag-support ng well-being and happiness ng LGBTQ people in our lives. Yung pag-intindi at pag-alam ng more tungkol sa love, sa different forms of love, different forms of relationship, different ways of dating na pwedeng maganap. So hopefully, marami tayong natutunan today. Nagpapasalamat din ako sa Department of Psychology, especially kay Dr. Mitch Ong and kay Miss Angge sa kanilang support for this event. Ayun, so I hope that I certainly can say that I learned so much today dun sa mga conversations. And I hope that we will walk away from this event, whether we are LGBTQ or cisgender and heterosexual. I hope that we walk away with a little bit more pride in the love and relationships and dating of LGBTQ people in our lives. And I hope, sabi nga ni Neil, I hope that we will continue to celebrate yung love in whatever forms it may take, as long as it is safe, satisfying, and consensual. So, with that, maraming salamat. Pwede ba tayong mag-quick photo off? Pwede ba yun?
Sure.
Sige.
Yan.
tayo lang ba? Or will we ask our...
Yes.
So, yung participants natin, kung okay lang sa inyo mag-on ng video, for those who would like to be part of the picture, maybe we can turn on our cameras. Sige, so we have 4 pages pala no? So medyo uulit-ulitin natin yung pag-take ng photo. Hi everyone, it's so good to see you all. Thank you for joining us today. I'm seeing some familiar faces and also some new faces. Ayan, so I think naka-on na ng camera. So I think some might not be okay. So sige, start ko na ha. So first page muna. Hi Nick! Okay, so first page, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so thank you. Move ako sa ating second page. So I know that you're not aware, you're not sure kung anong page kayo. I think it will vary depending on whose device you're using. So just to be sure, smile na lang din kayo kung naka-on yung video. Sige, so 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you. Sige, next. We have our third page. Okay, parang hindi naman yata baka ito na yung mga people who would prefer not to turn their cameras on. So, okay lang din. Wala namang no pressure. So, ayan. I think okay na tayo with our photo op. Ulit, maraming salamat for joining us this afternoon hanggang evening. Quick plug, meron tayong a few other events. So if you're interested, this June 25, next Friday, meron tayong webinar entitled Love Needs No Cure. So it's a webinar on LGBTQ affirmative practice and evidence-based perspectives on conversion therapy. We will be joined by the head of the APA task force on psychological practice with sexual minority persons. So if you're interested, we will be posting details for joining very soon. And on June 28th, that's Monday, next Monday, bahagi naman tayo ng isang webinar entitled Researching the Rainbow, a webinar on doing LGBTQ plus research in partnership with the UP School of Statistics. Ayun. So, for those who would like to get more information about these events, please, you can follow our Facebook page, so PAP LGBT Psychology Special Interest Group. I-share ko ba dito yung link? Sorry, hindi ko mahanap yung link. So, Facebook, please, you can find us LGBT Psychology Special Interest Group. We are also on Twitter, so PAP LGBT SIG. So, we post naman about our events dito sa channels na to.
Yeah.
Sige, so sorry. So again, thank you so much, everyone. We hope to see you again. We hope you've had a good time for these past 2 hours. Happy Pride and stay safe.
Happy Pride.
Thank you. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Alis na ba tayo?